Southern Hang family. Neil Wilding here. So, I've been known to tell some stories on this podcast, and those stories tend to go, well, some would say a little long. My good friends and fellow podcasters, Craig Cotton, Brian Redmond, Sherman Brown, they like to give me a hard time about it. You know, whether it's just us talking or even on social media a little bit. By the way, if you're not giving the podcast a follow, make sure you do. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Southern Hang Pod. Anyway, this week, I decided to take story time with Neil Wilding to another level. This week, I'm taking over the feed all to myself. And if you remember a few weeks ago, we had a guest on the pod. His name is Bryan Combs. And Bryan hosts a podcast that I'm a huge fan of. That podcast is called That One Show with Bryan Combs. In fact, that podcast is where I learned about some of the very artists that I talk about on this feed. Artists like Drayton Farley. By the way, if you're not listening to Drayton, go check him out. It's fantastic music. Artists like Ian Noe. I know we talked about Ian Noe on the feed. Justin Wells. Great musicians, and Bryan knows quite a bit about Kentucky artists, Appalachia. But our conversation with Bryan when we had him on as a guest led to a healthy discussion of my favorite band, Pearl Jam. So when Bryan asked me to come on his show, he said, "Why don't we just take a whole hour and talk Pearl Jam?" I just had to jump at that opportunity. Because my relationship with Pearl Jam goes all the way back to my junior year of high school when I bought Mother Love Bone's Apple on tape, on cassette tape. Remember those? I even gave a speech, true story, I gave a speech at the University of Louisville where I earned my degree. And somehow they gave me a degree because that speech I talked about in my public speaking course. I talked about Andrew Wood of Mother Love Bone and how his death kind of was the formation of Pearl Jam. So to Bryan Combs, thank you so much for letting me nerd out about Pearl Jam on your show. And to our Southern Hang listeners, I hope you enjoy the conversation as we push it out this week. Because this week's episode of Southern Hang is just that. It's that conversation I had on his podcast. So we have our first ever dual crossover episode. So Mixmaster Craig, cue the episode. And to quote the great Eddie Vedder, this is what it's like to be an adult.
Welcome to That One Show with Bryan Combs. And I have part of the Southern Hang with me today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Bryan. This is excited to nerd out with you here over the next hour.
Yeah. So, Neil, this I think is our third go around trying to do a Pearl Jam episode. It's like been pushing the Rock of Gibraltar uphill trying to get this thing recorded. Hopefully, third time's a charm, man.
It's going to be the third time will be a charm, and I'm excited about what we're doing here. It's going to be a good one.
So what we're doing, we are going to rotate and rank all 12 Pearl Jam studio albums, 12 through 1, from, I guess, worst to best. And compilations and live albums aren't eligible. This is just the 12 studio albums. And for our listeners in chronological order, those albums are 10, Versus, Vitology, No Code, Yield, Binaural, Riot Act, Self-Titled or Avocado, whichever one you prefer.
Yeah.
Backspacer, Lightning Bolt, Gigaton, and the most recent, last year's Dark Matter. Those are the eligible albums, and we'll get started at the number 12 Pearl Jam album of all time, according to you, Neil. What would that be?
According to me, I hate talking bad about Pearl Jam because I love pretty much everything that they've put out. But I would say the 2020 release Gigatron is probably going to be at the bottom of my list. Again, it's still got some quality tracks on it. Love everything Pearl Jam, but if somebody has to be last, I think that's the one that's where I'm going to put this one. What are your thoughts, Bryan?
I had it at 11, so we're not too far apart here.
Yeah.
And Something tells me you and I are roughly in around the same age.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be no secret that the earlier stuff, for the most part, is going to be higher on the list. It's not to say the back half of their career is bad, because it's not. It's not. It's not horrible by any means. Like you said, this album has a few songs that I like. Uh, it came out in the height of COVID, so I think that kind of hurt it, because people's headspaces during 2020 just wouldn't. At least mine wouldn't there for new music or movies or anything. I mean, we had
Yeah, it
other things
was
to worry
different.
about.
I
Uh,
remember when the first song came, Dance of the Clairvoyants came
yeah,
out. Or I guess that might have been the second one that came out from it. But I remember when that hit, it was before they had released the album. And I thought, boy, they're trying something with this. I didn't know if it was like a Talking Heads type sound or something. It just um, so I admire the effort in trying something different. Um, but I don't know that it hit everywhere throughout the album. And to me, that's where, when we start to talk about some of, like you said, some of the early parts of the catalog, these albums that we're ranking really high, those are certified no skips and like, straight through. And I'd say a good portion of their catalog is that way. But with Gigaton, I don't really go back to it much.
I've I think I've only listened to it all the way through chronologically, maybe twice.
Yeah.
Uh, I will say this: they out of their 12 albums in their 30-some-year career, they've never had an album chart lower than number five, and they've had three albums chart at number five, and this is one of their three lowest charting albums. But they've always been in the top five on their debut sales weeks for
Yeah.
an album.
Well,
Always.
us loyals, we go, and whatever they put out, we're going to listen.
Correct. Uh, my personal 12th, which I'll rank at number 11, is from 2013, and that is Lightning Bolt.
Huh.
I never connected with this album. I don't know why.
Well,
It was their first album in like 4 or 5 years, I think.
yeah, it had been a couple years. That's true.
And they really slowed down their output in the second half of their career. I mean, their first five albums all came out within like 7 years of one another.
Yeah, well,
We'll
boy,
get
what
to
a
those
glorious
later, but
7 years too, huh?
there was the insanity of that production and the quality of those albums in the short amount of time that they were churning them out, basically one every 18 months.
Yeah,
It's
while they were on
crazy.
the road too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lightning Bolt is, I think we talked about this when you came on our podcast. I, it didn't really land for me either. I had that one ranked at 10, but it didn't land for me. And there's a track that was kind of buried on that called Future Days that has gotten some renewed life to it. It was part
Been
of
using, yeah.
it was part of the Last of Us TV show, and it was part of the storyline. Actually, it was a really important scene where the main character picks up a guitar and plays a song that she learned from her surrogate father, and that song is Future Days. And when you listen to the lyrics of that song, man, they're powerful. It is a fantastic song. And I as a Pearl Jam fan, I was almost disappointed in myself. Like, why did it take that TV show? Like, I'm not supposed to learn stuff from TV about Pearl Jam. I'm supposed to know this
Right.
stuff.
Right. What was, can you remember like the first time you heard, outside of singles, of course, like a Pearl Jam a song used in media, be it a show or a movie?
It's not often. It doesn't happen often. They're pretty controlling of their music. Um, I don't know the first time. I do know that I'm watching a new show on the new HBO show Task. Are you watching? You're a TV guy.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
that? That's a phenomenal show. Mark Ruffalo and gang. And I've heard Mother Love Bone song and a couple Pearl Jam songs as they kind of snuck into that one, just kind of hanging out in the background. But I don't remember the first time I heard it, other than singles, like you said.
I, I may be crazy, and I know somebody will fact check me, but I'm almost positive Yellow Ledbetter was on an episode of Friends way back in the day.
No doubt.
I'm only about 90% sure though, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know that I can watch how many it was seasons of it. They're all out there on streaming, but I don't know
Nah.
that I can make my way through it to fact check for you. So let's just go with it.
Okay. All right. So what do you have at number 10?
I'm gonna go, and this might be controversial, but to me, it's the Avocado album. I, um, I and I think this was a um, I think part of it, the reason that one didn't relate to me as well. That one was a huge. There was like 4 years before they put that out, and I think as that album was about to come out, the songs they put out, Worldwide Suicide, Life Wasted, like those to me were not some of the better songs on that album. Still plenty of great songs. I love Come Back. I love several of the songs. But as an album, start to finish, that was the first one that I didn't buy a physical copy of, and that was still '06, so that was still CD days, and it was I don't know, it's one I don't go back to as often. How controversial is that, Brian?
Well, I had it at number 9, so again, we're not too far apart here.
Yeah.
I will say that their tour for this album you is the best I've ever personally saw them live.
Hmm.
I saw them in Cleveland, and they opened with Better Man, which they don't hardly ever do.
Huh.
And they played a lot of deep cuts, and one of my favorite songs off of No Code is Smile, which hardly ever gets played. They played it. They let Stone Gossard sing a song, uh, Don't Give Me No Lip, one of
Yeah.
the two songs he sings for Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
They did Daughter, and they did the It's Okay tag, which it's probably a pretty special show if they bring that one out.
That's right.
And that was probably my favorite Pearl Jam show that I've seen live, was in support of this album, even though it's not my favorite album.
Where was that? Where'd you see him?
It was in Cleveland, Ohio. It's wherever the Cavaliers play.
Oh,
I
at the
don't know,
basketball arena.
Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse or something like that.
Yeah, it was a different sponsor of the week, right?
Yeah,
Some of those. Yeah, I've
but that's
seen
back when.
Pearl Jam quite a bit, and I was going to have a comment for when a different album comes out in our discussion. I'll talk about going to see him during that tour because
Yeah,
it's
and
that's I tend to think about too some of the albums, and then did I see him live? And I hadn't seen him in a while, and so that's cool.
that was when
Yeah.
I still had the 10 Club seats too. So
Oh yeah.
you were guaranteed really good seats. But I've since given up my subscription to the 10
I
Club
haven't
membership.
seen him indoors since the Versus tour.
Mm.
I've only seen them at like amphitheaters and festivals and outdoor.
All right, so I guess I'm next. My personal number 10, but number 9 for the official list is their most recent album from last year, Dark Matter,
Hmm.
which is one of their lowest charting albums. It's one of the three at number 5. Uh, and I meant to say that Lightning Bolt, it was their last number 1 album. They've not had a number 1 album since then.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah.
I, I did enjoy this album, more so obviously than a couple of the other previous ones that we've discussed. It's ranked a little higher, but to me it's really in the middle of the pack for their output. Uh, it does have a few good songs that I do enjoy. Waiting for Stevie's probably my favorite song on the album. Uh, what are your thoughts on Dark Matter?
I love Dark Matter. I had it a little higher. I had it at 8 on my list.
Okay.
But I do think I like I think the highs are higher and maybe the lows are still kind of exist there. But Wreckage is great. Don't Tell or Won't Tell is great. I feel like it's funny. I'm still old school, Brian. I don't know about you where you listen to your music, but I still use iTunes to organize all my music because I feel like even though that technology is old, it syncs up with Apple Music and it allows me to build my playlists and everything. It's funny, my employees here, we're recording this here. I'm at the office. My employees make fun of me because I still use that old piece of technology, but I think it's a great way to organize music. And it also keeps track of how many times you've played a song.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, that album actually has more plays than a lot of the other albums, but I think it's just because it had been it had been 4 years since they put out music, and as we had said, Gigaton was not as I just didn't like it that much. So I feel like I like this one more, partly because I think it was such an improvement over Gigaton.
I agree. I do. I definitely agree. You mentioned it's been a long time since you saw them. How long has it been since you
I
saw
saw them in 2000. You're going to think I'm not a fan when I say this, but it's been since 2003.
That's how long it's been for me.
That's how long it's been since I've seen them in
No, no,
concert.
no, my bad. I saw them in '05, the one we just talked about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll get to '03 in a minute because I followed them around for a little bit for a week on that tour.
Oh, did you? Awesome. I
Yeah,
can't wait to talk about that. Maybe we should mention that album next just so we get to it. But no, yeah, I saw him in '03, and I was living in Texas, and so I saw him at a show in San Antonio. And it's at one of those amphitheaters that are throughout the country. Great venue, great show. Man, we'll talk about that one more soon.
well, you got number 8.
Is it my turn? Oh, you just did Dark Matter, didn't you?
Yeah, yep.
Let's see. So my next lowest as we work our way is Backspacer. And I think Backspacer, I mean, it's got Just Breathe on it, which has become one of their most popular songs. Great song, but also one that I don't always listen to start to finish. I think it's got a few skips on it. Um, but it's one of their more rocking records, right? Like it's a plugged in record for sure, other than Just Breathe. But what are your thoughts on Backspacer?
I had it at number 7, so once again, we're not too far off. Uh, and yeah, just breathe. Do you remember that when this came out, the only place you could buy the CD was at Target? They still
I
some kind of deal
don't.
with them.
What's funny is I don't remember that, but I saw it in doing a
Yeah.
little bit of homework for this.
So the nearest Target to me, because it's well established that I pretty much live at the place they were at in Old Brother We're Out. It's a geographical oddity. It's 2 hours from everywhere. So I actually drove like an hour and a half to get it, and it's the last physical uh, purchase I've ever made for a Pearl Jam album. That's the last one I ever bought on
Yeah.
physical media. But yeah, Just Breathe is really good. Have you heard Willie Nelson's cover of that?
You know what? It's funny. I heard it in a Bucky's. I was in Bucky's, and in the chaos that is Bucky's, I'm walking around, and I listen. I said, my wife, like, do you hear that? Like, that's just breathe. Wait, that's Willie. That's Willie doing Just Breathe. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and uh, obviously when we start getting higher on this list, we're going to talk probably a little bit more at length of some of these albums.
Yeah.
But we're starting to really get to the nitty gritty here in a minute. You have anything else to say about Backspace, or do you want to move on?
No, I think we can move on because I think you're right. I have so much more to say, actually, about every album from this point on.
All right,
I think is a step up from what we've talked about so far.
I agree. So at number 7, I will have Riot Act, and it was the album I got to see them a few times in one week. One of them was at Rupp Arena. I was in college, and uh, I had a little bit of disposable income at my hands and blew it all and just followed them around for a few days. The Pittsburgh show they did was my favorite that I actually got to see that tour.
Yeah.
They brought out some real rarities, including Footsteps,
Mm-hmm.
which they never hardly ever play live. It was a phenomenal show.
Did they
Actually,
play? They for that tour they were doing a cover of a little Stevie song called Patriot.
they played that at the Lexington show that I saw them in.
Man, and that
It was
was right
awesome.
around the time of Napster, so you could maybe
Yes.
grab some of that stuff. And I had heard that song on Napster, and I was so pumped to get it live.
And here's the funny thing with Pearl Jam, starting with their tour in 2000, they started releasing official bootlegs of every concert. Initially just on CD, but on this tour, if you purchased one, you got the CD like a month later, but within 48 hours, you got the soundboard MP3s.
You know what? I made a note to tell, like, that was why I wanted this tour. To me, sticks out as, and that show particular is the one in San Antonio. is one of the best concerts I've ever been to. And part of it is because of that. You attend the show, and this is 2003. This is before Spotify, before everything
Correct.
has gone streaming. To get the album or the concert that you just went to and be able to rip that to a CD and listen to it in your car 2 days later was
Correct.
groundbreaking.
So for the Lexington, Kentucky official bootleg, that show I was on the 10th row. I had fan club seats still.
Mm.
And you were just talking about the Patriot song. And Vedrex pretty much actually did that solo to kick off their first encore. And you can very clearly hear me squall uh, during that particular song on that bootleg still today.
All right, I'm gonna go pull it. I'm gonna check the receipts here. I'm gonna listen for it because that's one of my favorite covers that they've done. I love that song, and Eddie he leans into it. He really does.
Um, I'll be remiss before we move on from Riot Act. My daughter, I didn't force Pearl Jam on her, but she eventually came to love them by just osmosis.
Uh-huh.
And it's not her favorite album, but her favorite Pearl Jam song is from this album. It is I Am Mine.
Oh, it's a great song. Yeah,
And she actually has the lyrics, I know I'll live, I know I'll die, but in between is mine, tattooed on her arm.
really. You're doing things right. You're
All
raising
right.
them the right way.
Okay, now we're really going to get in.
Well, let me say. I just want to mention one more thing about Riot Act. I think um, so after they put that out, we've already covered all the albums. There was a pretty busy time after Riot Act because, like you said, they were pushing all their bootlegs out as CDs. And by the way, nothing like walking into a CD store and having Pearl Jam take over the whole shelf. That was awesome.
Right.
But also that's when they put out Lost Dogs, and we're not going to
Mm-hmm.
include that as part of this conversation. But that was fun because on that tour, I think they played some of those songs, and they also put out my favorite live album they've done, which is that live at Ben and Roya Hall. Have you
Yes.
heard that? Like that's
Ab- Absolutely, yes.
and it is phenomenal, and it's not on streaming. I have it on CD, and if you try and buy it on vinyl, it's like 300-400 bucks. It's not an easy find.
It's insanely priced. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I love that album, and it's funny he tells that story of getting served papers on stage doing a benefit. So anyway, all right.
All right, well, you got it number six.
At number six, I've got binaural, and I feel like I ride hard for binaural by having them at six. I've talked to others that have it further down on their list, but it's got a couple of my favorite songs.
I had it number six.
There you go. It's got a couple of my favorite songs. I think live also they played this song at when I saw them in San Antonio, Insignificance, which is one of their best live songs. That song rocks. I love that song, and it's. I remember getting this out. It's funny, by then CDs obviously were preferred method, but I remember I'm a little bit older than you are. I was on a business trip, um, and I was in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and I was in a rental car that did not have a CD player. And it came out, so I had to buy it on tape. So I bought the cassette tape, and I'm driving around Arkansas and jamming the Insignificance and of the Girl and some of the great tunes on that album.
Light Years is a great song.
Man, yeah, light years for sure.
I bought this release day. I had a summer job in between my freshman and sophomore years of college, holding a stop flag for the state while they were blacktopping.
Uh
It
huh.
was not the greatest of jobs, but on my lunch hour, I ran out to a Walmart and bought this. So my first listen was through the stereo of a state highway department truck with the door open and the window down while I'm holding a flag, stopping people for traffic.
And you still have fond memories. That's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this album, like when people, I would say like casual fans of Pearl Jam, when they start talking about um, binaural, they almost speak of it as like that's the sign of the downfall. But I think that album stands tall, very tall amongst other rock albums. And the only reason it's six is because they got five classics ahead of it.
I agree. Um, and before we get into the top five, let me just say that when I made my list, these next five albums that we're going to rank five through one, all of them could be number one. It's just whatever you prefer. And ask me tomorrow, and I may have a different answer for you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And so, yeah,
I
this will
think
be fun.
we went on social media a few weeks ago. They was like, "Has anybody got two masterpieces in a row to start their career?" And I was like, "Well, no. Pearl Jam has five, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
think there's going to be a wrong or right answer for these next five. I'm sure that people will disagree with us. If you may agree, but this is a tall task that we're entering into in the top five. And I will kick it off with from 1994 Vitology.
Yeah.
Where did you have this out of curiosity?
I had Vitology at 4,
Okay.
but like you said, if you ask me tomorrow, I might have it at 1.
Right.
Um, Vitologies, I remember exactly where I was. I bought this one at a um, with my fraternity brothers. Actually, the Southern Hang podcast. Sherman Brown. He's the other one who, like on our podcast, is a diehard Pearl Jam fan. Actually knows Mike McCready a little bit. But he and I were in college, and we went to the midnight release of Vitology and buying that and staying up all night listening to it. And Vitality was interesting because the first single was "Spin the Black Circle," which is a great
Right.
song, but I mean, it's not the song you think of, or maybe not. A lot of people, it's not the one they think of because it's just, oh my god, it's got banger after banger on it.
Well, the thing too is, I don't think they've necessarily ever released "quote unquote" their best songs from an album as a single.
Never, especially not the first one.
Yeah. And the Spin Black Circle is actually about listening to a vinyl record.
Yeah,
And a quick little note about Vitology: you could make an argument that they were the biggest band in the world at this point in their career,
yeah,
and they released it on vinyl a week before CD, and it was the first album to chart on vinyl since like the '80s.
I remember that story. Did you
But
buy it on vinyl?
no, I didn't.
I didn't.
That's if I listen to a record now outside of Apple Music, it's
Uh-huh.
on vinyl. I
Yep.
have a pretty extensive collection, but no, I didn't have no way of listening to it in '94 on vinyl, so we had to wait a week and get the
Yeah.
CD. And the CD was really cool because it had some wild artwork that was actually just reproductions from like a really old medical book from the 1800s.
Yeah. I
And their
remember
found
it didn't fit in with the other
yeah,
CDs. It was a
it
little
didn't. It was
taller. It was like a
yeah,
book.
right. And their foundation, their charitable foundation, still today is called Vitology.
Ah, awesome.
That they raise money for a lot of different causes. But yeah, man, Vitology's, it's got Better Man on it, Nothing Man, Corduroy, Jesus.
Oh man, not for you. I
Yeah,
think it's got my favorite lyric, maybe like singular lyric, maybe not just of Pearl Jam, but of all time. In Nothing Man, when he said, "Caught a bolt of lightning, curse the day I let it go," and I get goosebumps saying that, man, because that's
yeah.
life, man. It's like you hold on to the things close to you.
All right.
What
So where do you have
about
it number?
like you have? You were telling your story about Better Man and seeing them, and they opened up. So I saw them up at in Indy, and it was on a different album tour that we haven't talked about yet. But it was the day that it was right during the time that Bill Clinton was being impeached, and he was being interviewed, and it was all over the news, all over TV. It was Bill Clinton getting interviewed about his relations. He did not have sexual relations with that woman, but that was all over the place. And so Eddie captured some of that video or whatever. It's probably just news clips or TV clips, and they played it at the concert. And then Eddie comes on and he says, "This song is dedicated to you, Hillary," and he
Wow.
goes on to play "Better Man." It was
Wow.
great. Yeah, yeah.
What do you have at number four?
And number 4, this is a tough one. And I think this is one you have ranked higher, and I feel bad bringing it up now. Um, because I know your feelings about this album. But for me, I think the next one on the list is Yield. I'm sorry. I should have skipped it and let you talk about it up top.
No, it's
Um,
fine.
but
It's fine.
Yield is awesome, and it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best albums of all time. But I think we're saying that about all of these albums here. I love Yield. That's the tour that I saw him on when he did the Better Man deal. Actually, that um, my buddy won tickets on the radio, like a radio contest for us
Hmm.
to go, and we took the bus from Louisville to Indy to see the show. And it was the bus was sponsored by Hooters, so we we had Hooters on the bus with us, like the girls and the Wings, and a keg, and we're heading up to Indy to see Pearl Jam, and man, they put on an amazing show. It was phenomenal.
Okay, give me just a minute to talk about this album because it's my
Please do.
personal. It's my personal number one. But the context in which why it came out when I was a senior in high school, and when you're 18 and you're graduating high school, the media that you consume around that time is always a little bit more special to you than say with something that comes out in your late 20s, 30s, or when you're younger. It's also the first tour in which I got to ever see them live.
Mm-hmm.
I finally had enough money. I saw them at Riverbend in Cincinnati. And, there's the famous Who concert in Cincinnati in which people died.
Yep.
And Eddie Vedder's a huge Who fan.
Yeah.
And they opened the encore, and I think this may be one of, if not the only time they've ever played this song live, is the Who's The Kids Are All Right,
Awesome.
which was fantastic. But I unequivocally love this album. I think if you want to make an argument about, okay, you've never listened to Pearl Jam, what's their most accessible album? It's either this or 10.
I,
Take your pick. If you just want to hand it
accessible.
to,
Is that what you
just
mean?
just
Yeah.
just to a common person who's not a music fanatic, hey, listen to this album. I guarantee you'll like it. I think it's those two.
Yep.
And really, they were in a funny spot because an album that we haven't talked about yet, but we'll soon preceded this album in No Code, which was a conscious effort to change up
Yeah.
what they were doing as far as their songs go. And a lot of people, like when this came out, the critics used the cliche term, it's a return to form. But it really wasn't. And I will say that if you've seen Do the Evolution live, it's one of the great live songs they do,
Yeah. They do.
especially the Come On Church was singing the choir part. And everybody
Is
should
that the
see
one that
that.
they finally did a video? Is that the song where they?
Todd McFarlane, the artist behind Spawn, did an animated video. And here's what's funny is they did it, and it was their first official video since 10.
Yeah.
They just quit making videos after 10.
Right. Because they were
And
mad about how what happened with Jeremy.
yeah, and this was at the height of Total Request Live, TRL, hosted by Carson Daly on MTV, which you're probably a little bit too old for.
Yeah.
But you would call in every day from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Eastern Time and to a 1-900 number and vote for whatever video you wanted to be number one that day. And it was always like NSYNC or Britney Spears or Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
And on the
Maybe
NBC,
Eminem would crash it too. But
yeah. And the funny thing is Pearl Jam had an official message board at the time, and I, along with several other 100 people, organized a call in, and we got this all the way up to number 2 one day on TRL back in '99.
awesome. That's great.
I'm pretty sure.
Was that the only day it was ever played?
Yeah, that was it.
You know what? I'd wear that as a badge of honor. That's amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, it kicks off with "Brain of Jay," and which is just goes so hard. One of my favorite songs on the album, and one of my favorites of theirs at all, is "Faithful" and "In Hiding." Both of those I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I mean, just a throwaway song. MFC is like a 2 minute song, and it's just a great song.
Yeah. Well, in Wish List, they always play that, and that's
And
a
they bring
pretty
out
popular.
the Mirror Ball usually live when they play that. I love that song. But yeah, it's not only my favorite Pearl Jam album of all time, but it's probably one of my 3 or 4 favorite albums of all time, just because it hit at a seminal moment in my life. It was the first time I ever got to see them live. I loved them before this album, and I've loved them after this album, but I don't think I've ever loved them as much as I did during this era.
Yeah. It's a great record. You mentioned TRL. I'm going to take a departure from Pearl Jam for a minute. I don't know it, and I'm ripping this off from some other podcast. So, but I heard. Do you know the first song or the first video ever played on TRL?
I don't.
Monster Magnet.
Wow. You could have gave me 10,000 guesses.
No way I would have guessed that. Yeah. And that was, I can't remember where I heard that on some podcast, but
That's crazy.
yeah, Monster Magnet. And then it turns into, like you said, NSYNC and Britney and all that stuff. So I wasn't exactly watching TRL in the day.
All right. So we got three albums left, and like we said a while ago, these top five albums, which is their first five albums, are all just to me true masterpieces. And this is so difficult, but at number three, I'll go with their second album from 1993 in Verses.
Versus.
So, you know, the funny thing about Pearl Jam, have you watched the documentary Pearl Jam 20
Yes.
that Cameron Crowe did?
Cameron Crowe.
There's the first time I watched that, there's a scene with Eddie and Jeff kind of just ad libbing with some lyrics and some chords on the tour bus, and they start writing "Daughter" right there on a tour when they were touring behind 10, their debut album, and that's just God. And like we said a while ago, Neil, their output from '91 all the way up through '98 is just insanity. And you mentioned the lyrics. I caught a bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
He didn't let it go after Vitology, man.
No.
He definitely held it for a little while longer, at least. And
Yeah.
they, and we'll get into 10 more about the origins of Pearl Jam here in a few minutes when we talk about it. But it exploded quite unexpectedly, actually. It was part of the grunge, revolution, and they had a massive amount of expectations for their second album, and I wholeheartedly believe they not only met but exceeded those expectations. It's got a couple of their most famous songs on it: "Rearview Mirror," "Daughter." Uh,
Longest song title in the
yeah,
Pearl Jam catalog.
yeah. At that Pittsburgh show that I mentioned a while ago, they actually opened with "Elderly Woman." It was to kick off the show, and I knew it was going to be a good show as soon as they did that. But yeah, man, Versus.
Yeah.
Uh, what's your thoughts on it? Where did you have it?
I had Verses at number 3.
Okay.
And Versus is one of those albums, and this happens probably with a lot of artists, where that you just listen to a lot of when it comes out. Is obviously when it came out, it was on my stereo nonstop all the way through. But I don't want to say I quit listening to it. It became so familiar. All the songs became so familiar that I just forget how good the album is start to finish, and how it builds on each other, and also the chances that they took in making it, because so many of the artists, like, they put out 10, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, and then every record label's trying to get the next 10. And it's like, and they got other artists that were great artists on their own, they had trying to get them to sound more like Eddie. And then when Pearl Jam comes out with Verses, they didn't just make another 10. I feel like they made an absolute classic, and it's got a lot more acoustic stuff on it. It's showed their softer side, because even the slow songs on 10 are still all electric. And so I thought
Correct.
that Verses was, man, it's one of my favorite albums. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and the thing about Verses, it's the first album that they really wrote together, having really known each other. We'll get to 10 in a minute, and then Sanity behind the making of that album, and just how quickly popped that sucker out. But they, like you said, they could have just made the same album again, and I don't think they've ever made the same album twice. All
No.
12 of these are different, and I love and appreciate that. I want an artist to try different things, even if it doesn't work for me necessarily. I just don't want you churning out the same album every other year, just taking the easy path.
Yep.
But yeah, Versus. So we both had that at number 3, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, and by the way, when you go to Apple Music, they tack Crazy Mary on at the back of it as like I mean, obviously that was put out with another benefit, but when you include that one on an already amazing album, it's like, oh my gosh, what a
Have you got to hear them do that live? I've never got to hear it live.
yeah, that was at that San Antonio show. They played it,
Yes.
and it's like they it's like a 8-minute rendition. It's
Yeah,
really
that had to
good.
be awesome, man.
Hmm.
I guess what are you going to have at number two then, man? We got two albums left, and they couldn't
Well,
be
see,
more
the way
different.
the order, I feel bad because you and I each have our passion albums,
Yeah.
uh, and I guess because I'm going two, I'm making my passion album number one, leaving that one for you. But I think 10. I'm going to go with 10 at number two, which most people would think of 10 as their best album because obviously, I mean, it's best debut albums of all time. It put them on the map. It kept them on the map, and you know, we can have a whole nother podcast dedicated just to this album. But I have some personal, I just like with the stories that you told about Yield are the stories I tell about No Code, and which is why I'm leaving that one. But 10, obviously, you know, best debut albums of all time, and instant classic for sure.
So I know you know this story already, but I'm going to for the listener that's not super familiar with Pearl Jam or a huge fan, the origins of Pearl Jam. So they started out as a band called Green River, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
and then some of those members moved over to Mother Love Bone, and they had a lead singer by the name of Andrew Wood, and by all accounts, the industry thought they probably were going to be the big band to come out of Seattle. But right before their debut album, he unfortunately passed away. So everybody kind of went their separate ways for a little bit. Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament kind of hung out some and still fooled around musically, but with nothing specific in mind. And there was a drummer by the name of Jack Irons, and he was playing a show, I think with the Chili Peppers maybe at the time in San Diego, and Eddie Vedder would just volunteer to be a local roadie for bands that he liked when they came in, just so he could watch the show for free at the time. And he struck up a conversation with Jack Irons, and he had like a little demo tape of stuff he'd been doing, and he gave it to Jack, and Jack liked it. So he went back. He found himself in conversation with Jeff and Stone and said, "Hey man, if you all want a new lead singer, there's a cat down in San Diego that I think could fit your all style." So they sent a demo of just instrumental songs, and he went out and listened to it and surfed and thought about them for a little while and just dubbed some vocals over them and sent it back. They fly him up to Seattle, and they're playing like their first show, I think, called the Off Ramp, just a few days later. They've only known each other for less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just bang this album out in just a few weeks, which is
Yep.
pure insanity. For even like if they were best friends forever, to be able to just make this album, you know, in that short amount of time, but for the fact that they, you had this singer and you had these musicians in the band, for them to put out a pure masterpiece in the amount of time, that is truly phenomenal. There's not a bad song on this album,
Mm-mm.
and it's one of, if not the greatest debuts albums of all time. It's still yearly is, you know, on vinyl, since vinyl really took back off about 5 years ago. It's one of the best selling vinyls for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
The younger generation has discovered it. It's timeless. So many great songs on it. For the casual fan, it's probably the one they know the most.
Yeah.
It's probably their biggest album as far as people knowing what songs are on it.
Yeah.
And it's just an absolute masterpiece. What more can be said about 10?
So when I bought it, I had the tape, or yeah, the tape first, and then I had the CD. I was, as I say, I'm a little bit older than you are, so I was a senior in high school when this came out. And when
It's
you
funny
open
that
up, what's that?
it's funny that each of our number one album is the album that came out when we were a senior in high school.
so when you unfold the the CD tape or the CD cover or the tape, it's more than just because the cover is just those aren't the hands. When you
Correct.
unfold it, it's the whole band
It's the
standing up
poster.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a poster. Um, and so I had that hanging on my wall. I was actually a Mother Love Bone fan. Like so, I had Apple on tape and had come to Chloe Dancer and all of that before I even knew the connection. Like I was a Mother Love Bone guy because they had a couple of songs that actually hit modern rock radio. That's what we called it back then.
Crown of Thorns, I
Yeah,
think was
Crown of
another one.
Thorns, and it hit the radio. Yeah, before not with the Chloe Dancer part of it, just the Crown of Thorns part was on the radio. But so I had Apple as a tape, and then we found this this Pearl Jam tape, started listening, and then made the connection with Andrew Wood and the story. And obviously, their band used to be called Mookie Blaylock, and the reason the
Correct.
album is 10 is that
Yep.
Mookie Blaylock's jersey number was 10. But what's crazy about Pearl Jam is they signed on to do Lollapalooza that year, and that's the first time I saw them in concert. And that Lollapalooza, so that was 92, I think, the second Lollapalooza, 91, 92, whatever. It was the second one. And they signed on really early. And so they were second on the bill. And so I'm going to this, new, like, it wasn't really a festival like it is now. It was more of like a touring festival. But you had, in that same show, you had Pearl Jam, you had Soundgarden, you had Jesus and Mary Chain, you had Ice Cube, and then the Chili Peppers headlined it.
Jesus.
But all of that, and those are all great bands. I love all of them. But Pearl Jam going second. And it was funny because they had popped by the time they made it to Cincinnati. I saw that at Riverbend, and they had popped. And so a lot of people were there just to see Pearl Jam, and they were playing at like 2 p.m.
Yeah, there's a new book that's oral history of of Lollapalooza from the very first tour to the festivals now.
Yeah.
And there's a whole chapter dedicated to that phenomenon because when they booked them, they gave them like maybe a 30-minute time slot, like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they were playing in the heat of the day. But by all accounts, they blew everybody else off the stage. That was in the era in which Vedder was a wild man, so he was like climbing the rafters and the scaffolds.
Yep. Yeah, he
Like,
did
like a
that
monkey or
at the
something.
show. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you see him in the video or whatever, and he did it
yeah.
at the amphitheater. It was
And
nuts.
some of the people, associated with the festival, but not with Pearl Jam per se, like some of the stage hands and stage designers, they were always afraid he was going to die during that tour.
Well,
Because he
yeah.
was just climbing like 50 feet in the air most of the time during Porch, in which
Mm-hmm.
McCready was doing like a 5-minute solo. Vader was just jumping from 40 feet into the crowd, and
Yeah.
crowd surfing back to the stage. But yeah, can you imagine? God, man, I'm so jealous that you got to see that tour, man.
Oh, it was insane. And Jesus and Mary Chain is kind of an outlier to be on that bill.
Right.
But they killed it. I loved that. That was when they had Honey's Dead, and it was they weren't as popular as they had been with some of their
Can you
previous.
remember who played directly after Pearl Jam on the
Um,
bill?
it was Lush opened, and then Pearl Jam. Ice Cube was fourth. I don't remember who went after Pearl Jam now.
Can you imagine having to follow that though?
No, I mean, well, any of them. I mean, Soundgarden, like coming on fourth after all. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, it was so good. Oh, Ministry. It was Ministry.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which was a totally different sound. Um, but yeah, what an amazing show. And so here I am, a high school senior. Um, and man, you talk about finding the music of your life early on, and like the formidable years. That made me a fan immediately from day one.
All right. Well, I guess at number one is going to be No Code, and this is to me their most interesting album. We mentioned that you could make an argument when they were getting ready to release Versus, they were the biggest band in the world. There's no doubt that the lead up for this album, they were definitely the world's biggest band. I don't think there's an argument with that. They're coming off of 3 masterpieces, and they made a conservative effort to change what they were doing, not just with this album, but the tour. This is when they took on Ticketmaster. They actually went all the way to Congress. They tried to tell us 30 years ago,
I know.
and nobody would listen. Now look where we are.
I know.
You're paying $100 in fees, and when you think a ticket's $50, it's going to be 110. So they toured without Ticketmaster, and they were playing like just in the middle of nowhere. It was, you can read about the tour. It was very, very rough. And I think that's during this tour and its aftermath and the weight of this and the weight of taking on Ticketmaster was probably the closest they've ever come into breaking up.
Yep.
But No Code, to me, is definitely their most interesting album. On any given day, it may be my favorite. The writing on this album is just fantastic, and it was so much different than anything they put out before. I mean, off the top of my head, Off He Goes. That song to me never gets old.
Off he goes. It's like we
And the
all
older
have.
I get, the more poignant that song becomes.
Mhm.
And it wasn't like Better was middle aged when he wrote it. Hell, I mean, how
I
does that?
know. I get goosebumps. Like I said goosebumps earlier. Like with Off He Goes. Like we all got friends that come in and out of our lives like that,
Yeah,
and it's just when you see that person again, like, and it just you just pick up right where they are. I think it's a
exactly.
beautiful,
Even if it's
beautiful
been
song.
years, it's just my God. And then one of my personal favorite songs it is that I mentioned earlier is "Smile." It's on here.
Yep.
It's one of the few songs that features the harmonica in the Pearl Jam catalog.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, and Red Mosquito is one of the jams. Like that one, I guess it's a deep cut, but man,
It, it's
I love.
based on a true story. They recorded some of this album in New Orleans, and it was hotter than I guess the gates of hell during the recording. And uh, Eddie got eat up by mosquito bites one night.
Yeah, he got like physically sick from it. I
Yeah,
think. Yeah,
very very
he
sick.
was like hallucinating. So yeah.
And this is also in the right after this. They made an album called Mirrorball with Neil Young during this time frame.
So yeah, did I? So that in Louisville that year, like right after that Neil Young album came out, and then they had their little Merkin that came with it, the little bitty disc. Um, for the YouTube, I don't know if we're putting this on YouTube. I'm like the little bitty small disc, but Neil Young was at Farm Aid that year. And that was in Louisville. So you had like Dave Matthews was just coming out, and Mellencamp and Willie, and like all the staples that are at Farm Aid. Hootie and the Blowfish were big. They were going to be there. But Neil Young was one of the main draws. And the whole talk was like, oh, is Pearl Jam going to be there? It's because they had made this album together.
Right.
They weren't, but it was funny. It was like that was the talk of that whole festival, that Farm Aid at Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, was whether Pearl Jam was going to be there because of that Mirror Ball album, which is a jam, by the way. It's a great album.
Absolutely. And let me say also, outside of the music, I'm a big, as I've gotten older, believer in physical media because if we rely on something that's out there in the cloud, it may not be there when we want to listen or watch it. And for my money, the packaging for this album was phenomenal because it came with Polaroids.
Yes.
And there were all kinds of different ones out there.
Yeah.
So you didn't know which ones you were going to get when you purchased the CD.
Yep.
And that was just killer.
Well, the famous one was the eyeball.
Yep.
And it was
There's one of a tooth, I think, from a dog.
yeah, but the eyeball, do you know who that is? That's it.
I believe it's Dennis Rodman.
It's Dennis Rodman's eyeball.
That's
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Good call. Yeah, I do. I remember. I still have those Polaroids. I've got them from owning that CD. Yeah, the packaging was awesome, and they always spent money on that. You mentioned Vitology and what they did
Yes,
there. Even Yield album was cool because it had that little cutout of the Yield sign.
correct.
Yeah,
And when you opened it, it was the whole picture of just like a lonely yield side on an empty highway.
that's right. Yep. Yep.
I meant to say something about yield when we talked about it a while ago that I forgot. "Given the Fly," one of my favorite songs, and my wife made the statement when she never really listened to Pearl Jam until we got together in college, and when she listened to that song for the first time, she said it was the first gospel song she's ever heard that has the F word in it.
Go Eddie. Yeah. That's funny.
But
Yeah.
yeah, man, No Code got no problems with it being number one. Like I said, half hour ago, once we got to the top five, no right or wrong answer in the rankings of those five albums. And I don't think that there is another band or artist that's ever put out five albums consecutively that could match those five albums. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think of a couple of our artists that have as deep of a catalog, and I don't even know if they pulled off five straight. One of them I think of is REM. I feel like REM has put out like three different sets of like three great albums, but And then the other band is Spoon. I feel like Spoon is like a newer band that has put out like a bunch, but neither one of those are in the even the same category as what Pearl Jam put out for those first five records. Yeah,
And they could have quit in '98 and still been in the argument for the greatest American band of all time, even if that's all they ever did.
I agree.
And they're really the last band of their era standing too, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, yeah, and Eddie, like the last front man standing. Like you talked about, Mother Love Bone and Andrew Wood, like that is uh, like the Alice in Chains song "Wood" is actually about Andrew Wood. Um, and so all of those guys, all of those lead singers from that time are gone. Sad.
Yeah, Chris Cornell, he's gone. Obviously, Kurt.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
just out of curiosity, if right off the top of your head, if we included Lost Dogs, about what would it have been for you?
I had this exact conversation with somebody in prep for this. I really did. Brian Beam. Shout out to Brian Beam. He and I were texting about this. I would probably put Lost Dogs ahead of it would at least be 8.
It
I
would have been
think
six for me.
it'd be 6 for you.
Yep.
Yeah. What are some of your tracks you like from Lost Dogs? I mean, obviously it's got Yellow Ledbetter on it, but I almost even associate it with that.
I really like Down.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
really like that song. Really like the song "Be Girl,"
Yeah.
which
Be a
is
girl.
probably over. It's probably about the little girl, I guess, in the
It is.
music
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
for
Yeah. I like
Melly.
Fatal.
Yes.
It's great, but I do prefer the live version from the Benny Roya album that I talked about earlier to the one that's on Lost Dogs. But Fatal is incredible.
Yeah. And it.
Footsteps.
Oh God, yeah. Which yeah. I
Do
can.
you know the whole Mama Son trilogy story?
They played that, but in reverse order at that Pittsburgh show.
Did they? In
Yeah,
reverse order.
reverse order.
Did they
And
acknowledge it? Did they say that's what they
no,
were doing? No.
no, but the crowd because were freaking out. The ones that knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a live album from like 93 where they went back to Seattle. It's obviously it's on streaming because all their live stuff is where he acknowledged it and said, "Hey, this is the first time we're playing this. We're going to do something fun here while we come back." And that's where he acknowledged it and said it's his Nutcracker or whatever. And he
It's.
played them in order.
I think Dirty Frank's on that on Lost Dogs too, isn't
Dirty Frank is, yeah,
it?
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Were you ever a member of the Tin Club?
Yeah.
They used to mail out like a little 45
Hmm.
vinyl every Christmas,
Yep.
and I think that was one of the earlier ones. Was Dirty Frank?
Dirty Frank was, yeah. That was when like Last Kiss, which not one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs, but that's where they put that out from, I think.
I guess is that their biggest song ever as far as radio play
It
goes? I
drives me
think so.
nuts. It's like to me it's the least Pearl Jam song out there.
Well, they did do a cool thing because they weren't they had played that live a few times, and a friend of mine went to a Knoxville show on the Yield Tour the first time they ever played that live, and Eddie Vedder told the story behind it. He just happened to pick up like an old 45 at a flea market that week, and that song was on it.
Oh wow.
And he said,
Yeah.
"Let's cover it." And for whatever reason, I think a radio station in Cleveland got hold of a bootleg and played it, and then other stations started playing it. So they actually ended up recording it for charity. I
Yeah.
think it was like I forgot it was some kind of European war that was going on, Bosnia maybe,
Hmm.
like some refugees or whatever.
Yeah.
They ended up donating the proceeds of that song, but nah, man, it's not my favorite either.
Yeah.
It really is. I could do without it.
What about some of the favorite tracks from soundtracks?
Oh man, State of Love and Trust from Singles is all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Uh,
The Real
love it.
Thing from Judgment Night.
Yeah, yeah. But anything else you want to say before we wrap up? We said
Other
a whole
than
hour. I think we've hit it.
Yeah, other than like Brian, it's awesome to find someone else out there in this world that wants to geek out to Pearl Jam over and over 60 minutes. This has been an absolute pleasure, man.
I
I
could have
really
went another
appreciate it.
hour to be honest with you. I mean, just in the top five, we could have done it. We could have done it. We could do an entire episode for any of the top five albums.
I know we didn't even talk about like we barely mentioned like we didn't even mention Temple of the Dog. We barely mentioned Mother Love Bone. We didn't talk about solo addicts. Eddie's got some great solo stuff.
Yeah, his album he put out about 3 years ago is really good, actually.
Earthling, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I really
great.
like it.
Yeah, that one song reminds me of Tom Petty, like The Long Way or something.
Yes,
Took-
yes. And I really like it, the one he put out where he just played ukulele all the way through it.
yeah, yeah.
And I'll say this. So before we sign off, my wife would be kind of upset with me if I didn't bring this up. Are you familiar with the actor Leslie Allen Jordan?
No, tell me about him.
So he's a little fella. He's since passed on, but he put out an album of traditional gospel songs 3 years ago, in which he duetted with. He's an actor, but not a musician. But he's not that bad of a singer. It's called "Company's Coming,"
Okay.
and Eddie Vedder actually records like an old school church hymn on that album
Really?
with Leslie, and it's beautiful. Just look it up.
Okay.
And I didn't think I'd ever hear the day to where Eddie Vedder was singing a church hymn.
Well,
Here we are.
if Dixie brought it up, then we're in good shape. I feel like I know Dixie because of just from listening to your podcast. So
Right,
she's great.
right. Yeah, she's always a favorite of the fans when she comes on.
Well, hopefully I was not so distant second here.
All
I know
right,
you've
man,
had some great guests. So.
I really appreciate it, and we will be putting this out on both that one show's feed and Southern Hangs feed. I
Yep.
personally don't care how you listen to it as long as you do. I think this has been a great discussion.
That's right.
And I always teased my friends that know me that whenever I got around to putting a Pearl Jam episode out, that was going to be the end of the show. But I may have to walk that back a little bit.
Yeah, let's keep it going, Bryan. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
You bet, Bryan. This is a pleasure, man. Really enjoyed it.
Same here.
All right.